A reader recently sent me a video describing an incident he had while he was diving. And this video details what led up to the incident, what he did during the incident, and what the outcome was, and lessons to be learned from that dive. Now I'll show you this video, and I'll see you on the other side.
Hello, my name is Richard. I've been a scuba diver for a few years. Been a few years though since I've been wet. I wanted to talk to you today about an experience that I hope none of you ever have, but the odds are that eventually some of you may face. And that is panic. Surviving panic underwater is much different than surviving panic on the dry land. How you face the panic, what you do when you do panic, will ultimately determine if you will survive or not. Panic can have many triggers. It could be as simple as a strap breaking, a malfunction in part of your equipment, such as your first or second stage regulator, or like in my case, you encounter an object underwater that you think is entrapping you. I'm going to talk about an experience I had just to give you a little example of this. Many years ago, I was in a group. We were doing an advanced open water dive. In this particular dive, it was a night dive. The group had met, we had paired off into buddies, and we were preparing for the pre-dive briefing. And the brief was that we were going to surface swim out to a particular point in this quarry. We were going to go out along the surface to the wall that was in the quarry. Once we got there, we were going to assemble as a group, and we were going to descend to the level that had been prearranged. At this point, I don't remember what that was. After that, we were going to meet again down at the prescribed depth, and we're going to follow a compass course to various objects that are in the quarry. This particular quarry had been set up for training dives. There were platforms underwater. There were a number of wrecks that were underwater that people could visit and do various things with. So I knew those obstacles were there, and they were anchored partially to this wall that I described. So my buddy and I, along with a group, we went out. We all had mini Siloom light sticks tied to the top of our first stage regulator, and they floated about an inch or two above the tank. So we went out, we were with a group, we got to the spot where we were going to descend, and everybody checked in, we all gave the thumbs up, and we proceeded to go down. My buddy and I stayed together. We got down to the prescribed depth that we were going to meet at again. We looked around for the rest of our group, and somehow they had disappeared. We had no idea where they went. We couldn't see anybody's Siloom sticks except our own. And I had my flashlight on as a point of reference, so I was able to see my buddy and he was able to see me, and we were able to communicate through hand signals. So the initial response to our missing our group was that we were going to do a 360, and we communicated that by simply using a hand signal like this. And the concept was that we're going to spin in position all the way around in a full circle, and then come face to face again with each other and go on from there. Hopefully we were going to see our group, and we were going to head off and follow them. We knew the compass course that we were supposed to follow, but if we weren't with the group and didn't set off at the same point, then we would never find them. And until we finished the dive and came back to the beach. So we did our 360, and we couldn't find anybody. So we kind of shrugged our shoulders at each other, and either me or my buddy went, thumbs up, as in we're going up to the surface, and I agreed, thumbs up. So we started off to the surface. For some reason, I turned my flashlight off. I don't know why. If you've never been on a night dive, when you turn your lights off, there is absolutely nothing to see. It's completely black, especially at depth. And I started up, and my fin bounced off one of the anchor cables for one of the objects that's underwater that was nearby, apparently. And somehow I determined that I'm not going up. I'm staying right on the bottom, and that scared me. If you remember back to your classroom experience when they talk about panic, they say one of the first things you experience is the urge to spit your regulator out. I did experience that. And of course, if you spit your regulator out at depth, you're not going to make it. The next thing you inhale will be a lung full of water, and then you become, anyway. So I fought the experience, and you have to fight that experience to spit your regulator out. You're getting plenty of air. You don't need to spit your regulator out to get a mouthful of water to get more air, because it won't work at depth. So you must fight that impulse. I continued up. I did eventually break surface, and when I broke the surface, I inflated my BC to the point that the overpressurization valves popped. At that point, I stopped trying to fill the BC, and I was on the surface, and I was safe, and I relaxed. It took me a few minutes to actually recover, and my buddy bobbed up next to me in a few minutes, and we experienced the okay sign. We're good, and we started back to the beach. We did eventually meet back up with a group on the beach, and life went on from there. Lessons learned. You may have heard this in your classroom experience. Plan your dive, then dive your plan. In the plan, you will get and review hand signals, as Diane's already covered. You'll talk about emergency alternatives. What are you going to do when something happens or when something doesn't happen? Who's accountable to who is your partner, and what happens when you lose your partner? Or in this case, what happens when you lose the group? The dive master did eventually come to us and find out, why we hadn't joined the group. And we explained our situation, that we had become separated and going down. We don't know what happened. We tried to find you. We couldn't. We decided the best thing to do was come back to the beach. And he was okay with that. We had actually been underwater for the night dive, and so we met the basic conditions and moved on from there. I hope this answers some of your concerns about panic. I've been in public safety for a number of years. Panic is something that can be overcome. Practice, know your equipment, know your skills, plan your dive the plan. Thanks for your attention.
Well, I hope you enjoyed Richard's video, and more importantly, that you learned some lessons from that video, because we can all learn some lessons from his experience. And it just shows the importance of having that dive plan, talking over your dive with your buddy before you go in, so you know what to do if something does happen. So as he says, plan your dive and dive your plan. And in another video, which I'll link to in the description below, I also talk about the importance of SBTA, stop, breathe, think, act. So if a situation like this does arise, or other types of situation, you do not panic and you stop, breathe, think, act. And I want to thank Richard again for sharing this video with us so we all can become better and safer divers. Or if you have any lessons to be learned, or you want to share a video with other divers, please feel free to be in contact with me. And you can contact me at Dianne at scubadivingsmiles.com. In the meantime, happy and safe diving.